Oh boy, a DOS game. Well, after getting the game from GOG, I had to actually fix the config files that came with the game originally, because you can't access the setup program, and therefore things like sound settings, and the CPU cycles are set too low, so the video stutters. Thanks, GOG, it's not like I wanted a configuration that worked from the start. I just love messing with DOSBox config files, it's great. Anywho, Terra Nova Strike Force Centauri is a self-published game designed by Looking Glass Technologies in 1996. If the name sounds familiar, you've probably played, I don't know, Ultima Underworld, System Shock, Thief. Yeah, compared to those, Terra Nova kinda flew under the radar. And at first you might wonder why. The game looks pretty nice with outdoor environments, weather effects, even going so far as to have reflection effects on the water. And that's not even getting into stuff like the distortion effect of the thermal disruptor, or the way your video glitches in some crazy ways when your suit is taking a beating. Seriously, look at that heat wave effect. And then remember, this is using software rendering in 1996. It also plays smoothly for the most part. The armor does feel like it controls like a tank at times, but that's probably partly because of the lack of mouse look, and partly because, well, they're half-ton suits of armor. Despite this, Terra Nova was honestly a bit of a hard sell. It's a squad-based shooter, which wasn't really a familiar genre at all at the time, even if it is a big draw to gameplay, and the game looking good, and you had to have a good computer to go along with it. 60MHz Pentium, 8MB of RAM, double-speed CD-ROM drive, 256-color monitor. This was the minimum, and keep in mind, this is 1996. 133MHz Pentium with 16MB of RAM would be brand new and expensive, like $2,000 expensive, and that's probably what you'd need if you wanted to run the game on maximum settings. And because of the steep requirements, you end up needing a pretty good computer to emulate the game now. Sheesh. Not to mention it wasn't exactly marketed to the masses.
This is not for beginners. If you lack the quick reflexes and mental agility that this game requires, please seek alternative entertainment. We repeat, this is not for beginners.
The game sold about 100,000 copies, which sounds great, but it was still a commercial failure as the cheesy FMV cutscenes made the game very expensive. This wasn't the original plan. The plan was to have briefings and cutscenes like the original Wing Commander, but Wing Commander 3 came along, blew the lid off of FMV production values, and made Looking Glass go, well, balls, if we don't do that, we'll look like amateur hour. And they siphoned a large amount of money to write and rewrite scripts and take on actors for the FMV work, which meant they cut the online multiplayer. That's right, we got FMV cutscenes instead of online multiplayer. Joy. Okay, I'm saying all this and we haven't really even played the game yet. Let's just do this. Though there is a lot of easily missed lore on your computer system detailing the Centauri system and its planets and government, and the Earth's tyrannical hegemony, who shuffle people all over the place so they have no real national identity. They teach warped history or no history at all. They only let people who've worked a massive amount of time vote and have a permanent home. They assign you to fields of study based on standardized testing. Wealth redistribution is at an insane level. Working is mandatory. And they exile people who attempt to defy any of this to inhospitable places like, Antarctica. Of course, this applies to all except the ruling upper class in this setting, like any good radical progressive left society. They get to know their history, have permanent homes, decide everything, carry weapons, be judged by different courts that are closed off to the public. Oh, that's right, I mentioned the people could vote. The people don't bring up issues or petitions, the hegemony just kinda decides what issues are voted on, so really there's only this illusion of freedom that the hegemony throws their subjects. The scariest part of this game may be the Earth's government. If you have the game, give it a read, it's scary, it'll give you motivation to fight. They even leveled one of the dome cities on Venus to get them to surrender. They're not afraid to pull some nasty stuff to keep hold of their power, like any good progressive life society. Failing that, take note of the gravity of all the different planets at least. This will affect your gameplay as your jumps and projectile weapons will behave differently due to this. There's also profiles on all the clans and your squad mates, and you get mail from SFC and news updates as the game goes on. Yeah, this game has those FMV cutscenes, but this is where much of the writing is, and it's kind of a shame because it's so easy to miss. I like the two clans who keep participating in agricultural warfare, since they hate each other but don't actually want to start up firefights. By the way, does the font in these profiles seem familiar? I mean, besides from System Shock? Look at it for a moment. It's Toronto, or at least a slightly modified version of it. That's right, it's a Mac font! I'm reviewing a DOS game and I still can't get away from the Macintosh. It's not just any Mac font either. This was dropped at the introduction of System 6, so Looking Glass stole a very old, obscure Apple font, even by those standards. Have fun playing System Shock or Terra Nova without seeing that again. This has been your random Macintosh fact. Speaking of the FMV cutscenes, they spoil insane amounts of the plot very early on. For example, you learn literally upon starting the game that there's a hegemony mole within SFC's ranks, and that's literally the first cutscene of the game. That should be a plot twist for later, not the game's first foot forward. In fact, the FMV cutscenes are kinda lacking in general. While the cheesy acting is entertaining, though that may be just me, they don't do a very good job of introducing the characters, so it's hard for me to keep track of who was who, at least until the second time around through the game. They do have name tags, but good luck seeing them through the grainy FMV video. There is a story here, and I wouldn't say the acting is terrible, but the pacing feels really off. The FMV cutscenes were slapped around an existing story, and it kind of shows. Oh, and they don't use actual props. All the backgrounds and video screens, aside from maybe chairs, tables, and cups, are all done in CG, and it's just really jarring, and it doesn't mesh at all. Also, you can kinda call who the villains are. The wormy-sounding ambassador, yeah, he's totally a villain. Your tactless blunt squad mate, who talks about how closed-minded people are for not liking the hegemony despite all their personal losses because of them, yeah, he's the mole. I'd say spoilers, but I was calling these plot points from the beginning of the game. I don't think I'm spoiling much. Which is irritating. Someone can be an ass and still be a good guy. What's so terrible about an abrasive dick? Wait, that came out. So yeah, after some initial training missions to get used to your powered battle armor, you're thrust into combat. Oh what, no bras? You know, battle-ready armor? What? When else am I gonna work in a Kids Next Door reference? This kinda makes it not really a mech game, so to speak. They're little half-ton suits of armor, not the hulking behemoths of Armored Core or Mech Warrior fame. As such, the main weak point in the suits is, well, you. Not exactly a mecha. You'll tend to die before anything in your suit gets really trashed, at least until later on, which literally makes them armor. It protects you. Your suit can fail in many different ways, but it's not over unless you die. Each briefing is a simple video with a voiceover, and you should adjust your squad loadout accordingly. There's many different weapons, augmented suit functions, and even 3 different PVAs. At least there is eventually. The scout suit is only really used for the stealth missions, and maybe by recon specialists for its enhanced sensor range. The standard suit and heavy suit tend to be your combat options depending on your need for speed, though you won't get the heavy suit until you start tangling with the hegemony. Your squad members are pretty competent for the most part. They usually do what you tell them and are fairly effective in taking out enemy PBAs, even if they're not weapon specialists, though they're obviously better at it. The shortcomings don't really show until you crank up the game's difficulty, and even then only midway through the game. In fact, let's step through the game. There's a few gameplay issues, and they're easier to describe this way. Like I said, the game does have training missions to get you used to the game, but you'll probably want to read the manual. There are some handy shortcuts for giving orders to your squad. After an intro that spoils half the game's plot twists and establishes that Force Centauri, or SFC, is a bunch of misfits, you get sent solo to flash a few pirates. Operation Cannonball. This is hopefully where you learn that multi-pulsars are useless. I mean, look at this. This is on the easiest difficulty, they just don't hit. It takes minutes just to down one pirate, and they're the cannon fodder of this game. Just use lasers. Smoke grenades are pretty useless too. It's much better to just, you know, eliminate the source of enemy fire. You also only get 2 augmented suit functions, or ASFs, to start with. The Dynamo, which doubles your energy recharge, and the Jump Jet boosters, which, well, duh. But you can jump more than far enough already, so I've never used that. It doesn't matter the difficulty though. If you can't get past this mission, you should probably play a different game. Every character seems to have a tragic backstory of some kind, and they throw them at you fast and heavy. Also, Nicola and his brother don't get along.
You're never alone, alright? Don't start with that. What, this? Or how about this?
Our last hope, everyone. Also, I feel weird every time they say Nicola. The middle name I use is Nikolai, so... yeah. Second mission's pretty easy. Shoot some pirates, don't shoot any cargo, and don't go into the water because then you'll go really slow. You also get a squad mate. Don't give them multi-pulsars, they think they're better than they really are. Also, it's called Operation Panama. Like the canal, I guess, but insert your Van Halen reference here. I'd just do it myself, but I don't want to get cock-slapped by copyright for a joke again. After seeing the obvious mole, then wondering why SFC's standard uniform is safety orange prison jumpsuits, and seeing the stereotypical bartender who knows way too much.
Well, that was pleasant as a Petrov's grenade. What'd you say? You want another drink or what?
No, the Petrov's grenades. The hell would a bartender know about it?
We get a stealth mission. Operation Eagle Eye. Fits, I suppose. Just take the long way around, scan the crates, and get out. You have an EM emitter to highlight enemies, but really it's rather useless. Supposedly, according to a cutscene, it'll mess with clones later on, but that didn't seem to be the case. You also get the scout suit here, because when else was it gonna happen? Still stuck with a single squad mate, you're then tasked with clearing pirates and getting a couple of trucks to surrender. Operation Sherwood. Well, you are stealing the grenades from the pirates, but they kind of stole them first. Your laser is still your only useful weapon. It's technically time sensitive, they'll eventually reach more guards, but the road is so windy that it really doesn't matter.
We want those grenades back undetonated. Repeat after me. Undetonated. Thank you, soldiers. Dismissed.
After saving the shipment of grenades from the pirates, you get the grenade launcher, a bigger squad, and get to clear more pirates. Operation Seagull. I don't understand. Anywho, the grenade launcher is fairly useful, and your squad mates seem to be really good at using it, so yeah, use it. Next mission, you get the Universal Systems Backup, or USB. I'm going to assume that's a coincidence. USB was barely released, much less used when this was developed. Also, this item is useless. By the time you'd be worrying about suit systems, you're going to be dead. Now you get to storm the base you scouted earlier. Fun times. I would say it's revenge for making me do a stealth mission, but the stealth missions are actually the easiest missions in this game. Yeah, this game actually has stealth segments that aren't bullshit. Operation Eagle's Roost. I'm not understanding some of these mission names. Also, I don't know if this is a bug, but you find a hegemony landing pad here. Granted, you're supposed to get a message later saying there's stuff that could have been hegemony equipment here, but I don't think it's supposed to be that blatant about it. The hegemony ambassador ensures that there's no military action happening in their system.
Trust me. There is no hegemony action planned in your system.
As if the questioning, skeptical looks from Apio and Commander McPherson weren't enough, we get a panning shot of a giant, evil-looking ship. Subtle. Next up is rescuing a hotshot from another strike force. This is a little bit tricky on higher difficulties. You must have a repair and electronics specialist and rescue the guy. This means you get no weapon specialists, and if anyone evacs, the mission is a no-go. Basically, make sure you don't get overwhelmed, tell the other guy to stay behind a bit, and you should be fine. Operation Valkyrie. I guess this one was chosen to live in battle, rather than die and go to Valhalla just yet. Next up, you get the railgun. Don't use it. It cripples armor repair, which sounds nice, but people never run away to have their armor regenerate, so thanks to the low bullet speed and damage, this is useless. But it's a pain in the ass for you when the enemies have them, so lose-lose. On this mission, you have to hit this shuttle before it takes off and then flash the base. The shuttle takeoff is timed, but the twist is it's timed to some amount of time after the enemy sees you. So you've got two options. Charge in and don't stop until you flash the ship, or sneak around, jump down, and strike. The second option is probably better, especially on the higher difficulties, and even then the base is pretty crowded. During the cutscene, we get not one, but two tragic backstories of crew members, though one of them has an interesting ability out of it at least, along with an almost monosyllabic vocabulary. Here, Ashford will explain.
What is he doing?
Great trick. After the pirate prison, he was a little, so SFC fitted him with these probes. He can move memories or thoughts from one person to another. Hey, don't worry. Gags can only take what you let him have. It's perfectly safe. At least he says it is.
Oh, her call sign is Siren, but even her profile says to use it at your own peril. Also, I've got to address this, Gags actually isn't the dumb muscle trope. He's smart. He's actually an electronics expert here. Still, I can't imagine it's easy to find work like that. Now you're told to search and destroy on a bunch of pirates, and you get the EM dampener. Not usually useful, except on a couple of stealth missions, where it gives you a bit of extra room for error. Since there's no time constraint, you'll probably want to trash the convoy, unless you feel like taking on a shit ton of pirates at once, which you probably don't. After that, you'll finally reach where the pirates are selling all their stuff and who's arming them. And who else but the hegemony operating a hidden base on Thatcher. That news bulletin where the ambassador phrased the results of the talks as inevitable should have given that away, huh? This is where you'll learn your squad isn't very good at listening when you tell them to retreat to the dropship. This is the first of two major flaws in the AI. Best way to do this may be to tell your squad to wait at pickup in standard suits, get a scout suit and EM dampener, then scan the stuff from as far away as possible and run away. Think of it as a stealth mission. It's possible to take them on, but on harder settings it won't be pleasant. Also, the guy sounds like he's whining about an online game when he learns of this discovery that's going to essentially mean war.
ID lock reports hegemony equipment. What the hell?
Can't even blame the FMV for that one, that's just a voiceover. Not like we ever see the dropship pilot. So now we know who the true enemy is. The pirates still show up, but you'll mainly be fighting the hegemony now. But with all this info about them, did you really expect otherwise? I mean, yeah, the game kinda makes it obvious. Also here, hegemony stuff, or at least the PBAs, show up as unknown, which makes me wonder about earlier. This is where the game starts getting hard on World War. Now you're tasked with defending a mine. You get attacked on two fronts, and if the artillery gets too close, you fail, the mine's destroyed. You could destroy the cannon if you want, but it's not preferred. You basically have to take care of enemies from the north as quick as possible, then head down the road and kill the troops as quickly as possible. However, you have no ASFs that help keep you alive yet, and HEG PBAs are nothing to scoff at. Operation Ivanhoe? You do get the heavy suit and particle beam on this stage, though. The particle beam is very useful as a long-range weapon, and the heavy suit, well, it has a lot of armor. It is slow and has low sensor range, though, so keep that in mind. It does make it tricky to use the particle beam effectively. Nicola accuses his brother of being a traitor, and not for the first time. Strike one on that guess. I know it's best to be skeptical of everyone, but your brother is your first guess? Granted, they don't get along that well, but still.
Go to hell. I did say that.
Operation Meteor and Meteorite are pretty easy. The first one is scripted to injure Gags, the second is basically repairing and defending the telescope. On the second mission, you also get the auto dock. This is your most useful ASF so far. It basically gives you additional health on command a few times. After seeing some kind of behind-the-scenes goings-on with Walker and her mother, the councilwoman, you get... oh dear, this mission. Operation Oil Slick. Okay, despite the respawning enemies on most difficulties, this mission isn't going to be a problem. On World War, the enemies are very difficult, and the auto dock is only going to help so much. I don't really have advice for you on World War other than good luck. This is actually my biggest problem with the game other than the AI. The difficulty spikes midway through the game, you get a few really hard missions, and then you get the equipment that lets you more easily deal with the harder and harder enemies the game throws at you, and it kinda peters off to a medium difficulty. It kinda throws you off a little. You'd be tempted to quit because you think it's just gonna get even harder from here. Then it doesn't. Next, you defend Bishop Stedding, a small town that happens to house military research. Really just kill the enemies and don't use explosives because you're supposed to be defending the innocent buildings. Operation Market Square. I guess I can see that one. You get the Thermal Disruptor on this mission. This goes to the weakest armor facing and does direct damage to the PBA operator. So pretty much a microwave gun. Sounds great, and it would be if not for the short range. And no, I don't know why the enemy PBAs explode into pieces upon defeat. It is funny to see this on a lunar mission though, as the pieces float slowly downwards. Operation Eggshell. Jeez, okay, there's actually 2 missions in a row like this, and this is the most horrible difficulty spike in the game. You basically need to recover a truck or trucks from the hegemony, and if you don't do it quickly, you have to deal with even more enemies. And you really can't use grenades, which are your most effective weapon, because then you'll damage the trucks. It's a shame because your squad is great with grenades. What they don't know how to do is keep up with you. For some reason they move slower than you, which makes them really useless on these two missions. At least at the second of these missions, Operation Conductor, you can just flash the truck if you really need to. Which I did. I think it's almost impossible to rescue the truck on World War. I managed to get it out a couple of times, but then 4 PBAs get pulled out of the game's ass on the way back, and I have no squad and I'm beat to hell. These missions really suck on World War. Now might be a good time to show you the death animation, because you'll be seeing it a lot here. I'm not sure whether to laugh at the cheesy CG or be mortified. I call it the Harvester effect. No promises on if I'll ever get to that game. You'd think the mine layer you get here would be helpful, but you'll kinda just end up blowing up the truck. Not because the mines are set off by the truck, but because the enemy sticks so close that the splash damage hits it. Damn. The crew looks over a captured clone, rendered in CG of course, and Walker kills it for reasons. I think they explain it later. Though they do actually try to mislead you into thinking Brant might be the mole.
So this is a clone. Beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, if you say so, Brant. So, Operation Meteor Shower. It's kinda clever. It's basically Operation Meteorite in reverse. Demolish the Heg telescope and get out. Take out the heavy turrets first, then all the hogs, then worry about demolishing the telescope. There's no time constraint, so this is easy compared to the 2 missions before. Might still be hard, though not having to hurry really helps. And then you get captured. Well, shit. After some hammy banter with the wormy ambassador...
How you feeling?
Why don't you drop the force field? I'll show you how I'm feeling.
Is that humor again? I love it.
A prison break happens. Try to tell them to retreat and head for the dropship, but good luck. Basically run and hope you don't die. Unless you're on the easiest difficulty, then watch someone in perfectly good health go into evac mode and die for no apparent reason. Operation Goblin indeed. It's the game being a gremlin and pulling scripted events on you. You have a funeral for the guy where Ashford, you know, the traitor, accuses Nikolai of being the traitor and storms off. Gah, this mix of CG and live action is really jarring. Also, the scene kinda shows the actors can't really get into the emotions of a squad mate dying. Ugh.
But I kinda got used to it.
Oh, miss him, Sarah. What is it? Why can't you look at me?
She's just upset.
Next is another stealth mission, which seems harder since combat is supposed to be involved in a limited capacity. But fun fact, there's no sentries on the west side, despite what the mission briefing seems to suggest. So go scout suit, laser, particle beam, EM dampener. Sneak to the west side of the EM dampener, turn it off, hit the drones with lasers, then snipe the geosensor station with the particle beam, kick on the EM dampener again and leave. I just saved you a lot of trouble. You're welcome. Operation Undertow is now one of the easiest missions in the game. The next mission is pretty much an ambush. Not that it's a surprise with the cutscene preceding it.
Oh no.
What'd he say?
He's got a bad feeling. That means trouble.
That means nothing. He's a demented communications expert, not a rabbit's foot.
Tell that to Strike Force Porthos. Only 2 of them were left alive the last time he had a bad feeling.
I'll give you a prediction. This will be our smoothest mission yet. We go in, do our jobs, get our butts back out, safe and sound.
Did you figure out Ashford's the traitor yet? We've dropped such easy-to-miss, tiny little hints for you. Ugh. Yeah, this one's a pain on World War as well, especially with your squad's reluctance to just take the Monty Python approach. Operation Ivy, as in you'll get tripped up in it? I'm confused. You do get the missile launcher here though, which is essentially a faster, longer-range grenade launcher that takes up 2 slots. It's a nice weapon, though it is slightly possible for your squad to end up catching you in the blast of these things. Now to rescue a clan leader who got his ship shot down. Operation Seraphim, as in we're the guardian angels he's needing, I guess. Find the guy who's in the same spot every time and kill the hogs. Easier said than done until you know the order they'll come in. South, north, and northwest, by the way. Having your squad positioned a drone flying around to keep an eye on things helps too. As long as you don't let them reach the ship, it's not that difficult, just irritating. It does make it a bit time sensitive. It's also too easy to get stuck moving slowly on a slope and get yourself killed rather quickly. Nick accuses Brandt of being the traitor, again, and we get another bit of tragic backstory. Jeez, is there anyone here who's lived a normal life at all? Oh, and you know, the commander dies, poisoned, probably due to the traitor, as if we needed anything else on top of this pile of misery, and Walker takes the position of commander, which means one of your weapons people is replaced. The next mission's not bad, Operation Crop Duster. You get to use an experimental explosive called Dentonium. Yeah, I know it's stupid, just go with it. Anywho, you use it on a big hegemony harvester. Wipe out all the units and then plant and run. No time constraint, so it's fairly easy as long as you take your time, though you don't get a beneficial ASF like the auto dock since you're carrying the Dentonium module. Next, you go on a solo mission to capture a hegemony courier arranging a most likely unfavorable ceasefire with Klansman Archer. No, not that Archer. It's actually an ambush on you, likely because of the mole. Operation Mercury. Yeah, I don't know, Mercury is hot? The enemy do like to use thermal disruptors here for whatever bizarre reason. Hey, those only work if you damage my armor. This doesn't really matter though, because you get the most useful ASF in the entire game on this mission, the personal shield. Yeah, did you feel that? That was the difficulty of the game dropping. Basically, turn this baby on whenever you enter combat, and the damage done to you personally is drastically reduced. This does mean you might have to worry about your suit systems totally giving out, since it doesn't protect your suit, contrary to the description, but this ASF will keep you alive through hell and back. And yes, systems like targeting, sensors, and jump jets can go completely out, leaving you to try and see and aim manually through an enormously glitchy video feed. Turns out the mysterious bombing run in the last mission was courtesy of the bartender who knows too much, and they suspect him of being the traitor, which is better than their last guess. They use Gaggs' ability to clear him of such, although, boy, wouldn't that be complicated if one of, or hell, both of them were the Molar in collaboration. Oh, and only making it more obvious, Ashford's the mole.
Fry his ass. Do it, Cass.
Back off, Ashford. There's a right way to do this.
Next mission's a little bit tricky, at least to do the full objective on. You're destroying a hegemony communication interception station under construction. However, they'd really like it if you took out all the guards so their deep agent's cover isn't blown. Yeah, we can play the mole game too. You get the ionic fusion rifle for this mission, which is essentially an upgraded laser. It's slightly shorter range, but it does a large amount of damage. However, it is hard to dodge at that range, and it does burn through energy. I like using it, but your results may vary. For this mission, you're wanting to quickly eliminate weak guards, so it's actually a pretty nice weapon for this. Maybe pair it with the particle beam and missile launcher. This is one of the only missions where people will run away, so you may actually end up wanting the standard suits. You really don't want to take on the reinforcements, high-level clones and bomber drones. Ugh. Not to mention the 10-minute time window. So you want to park your squad on the road and sweep the south for guards, making sure no one runs off over the hills to the southwest. Your squad will take care of anyone using the road. Operation Black Widow. I guess we're supposed to be hidden and deadly here. Speaking of the traitor, you get a solo mission specifically labeled a covert op. Even though we've had stealth missions before. The mole's messages are apparently relayed through a pirate base and over to the hogs. So you go in with a pirate PBA and decrypt the messages to figure out, in the most brilliant of twists, it's Ashford.
It's Ashford. Ashford's the traitor. That bastard.
No, really? I mean, they just hid that plot twist so well. Also, good luck. The pirate PBA is a piece of crap. Run to the dropship, try to use your armor facings to your advantage, and hope you don't die. Operation Cold War. I don't know, seemed pretty heated to me. Now that we, or at least the characters, have found out Ashford's the traitor, enjoy some of the most hammy acting in this game.
Hegemony is about purity. You're about distortion, all of you. Humanity isn't about lesser breeds, it's about unified power.
Along with some painful CG and lack of understanding of, acceleration and terminal velocity. Ugh. Whoever's doing the CG, take a physics class or two. Don't try and tell me, oh, it's a different planet, it might behave differently. First of all, that was instantaneous gravitational acceleration. That's not how physics works. Second of all, SFC headquarters is located on New Hope, which is explicitly stated to be very much like Earth in both atmosphere and gravity. This is what happens when you read the lore. Next up is another lunar mission. The hegemony is building a pulse cannon.
You all disgust me! I leave you to the hegemony, to their purity. Oh, and their pulse cannon!
With the intent of wiping out SFC HQ. Your job is to fly up there and not only destroy the cannon, but have it destroy the blockade satellite over Thatcher before you do. Oh, and demo the control station too. Best to be complete. There's lots of strong enemies, and it's likely your suit will be trashed by the end of this. Take that personal shield, along with an electronics expert and a couple of demolitions experts, just in case one evacs. They have the demolition pack, so they can't have a personal shield. The repair people are the same way. You do get the auto turret on this mission, and it can be useful, especially on one particular mission. Now if only they gave you this back on Operation Eggshell and Operation Conductor. Operation Aegis. Protection by a strong force. Nice. Oh, and if you fail this mission, the game actually has an animation for SFC getting obliterated, as if Nicola's face burning off his skull wasn't a big enough screw you to the player for failing. Blasted hedgehogs. What? I didn't make that up.
Use your drones, your nav maps. Use a divining rod if you have to, but find that craft before the hedgehogs do.
Also, doesn't the whole dropship landing scene seem familiar? Yeah. Next up, destroy an old weapons testing facility on Sarah, as the Hogs are trying to download info on your superior weapons technology. Nothing real tricky, just trash the station and the Hogs. You don't even need a demolitions expert, your weapons will do the trick. Operation Buzzard. Makes sense with the Hogs trying to pick apart the carcass of the facility.
Sarah, it's a lovely place if caustic atmospheres and burning sands are your thing.
Speaking of auto turrets being useful, Operation Sparkplug. This is a dual escort mission. Yeah, you shivered at those words, didn't you? You have to defend the landing pad and the convoy of trucks, but it can be done on World War. Send your squad down to the southern peninsula to take care of the attacking pirates, then run up this road. Don't stop for the drones. Get to this intersection and start dropping auto turrets and backing up. This will really soften up the attacking force and let you clean them up before they can destroy too much of the convoy. There, I just saved you so much headache. Again. You're welcome. Oh, also, yeah, you get the Soul Island Research Mark IV Discharger. I never used it. It's a very short-range area effect weapon. In other words, it's kinda actually legitimately dangerous to use, especially around your squad mates. So, don't. Next mission is another escort mission, but it's a lot less intense than the last. Send a demolitions expert over to the bridge to plant charges and demolish it, especially on World War. Last thing you need is heavy tanks and mechs plowing into you. Meanwhile, the rest of you should be running up to the landslide. Clear the Hogs and drones out from there and tell your entire squad to follow the front truck while you spearhead the way forward. Make sure this pass is clear before telling your squad to follow you again and make your way to the pickup point. Last thing you need is the trucks getting destroyed behind your back. Operation Cadmium. Are we referring to the bridge being a soft point in the Hogs' plans? You know, cadmium. It's a soft metal. Go look it up. Okay, so the game actually attempts a bit of drama here. Walker, the person who's the commander now, reveals she knows where Maggie's family is. Or rather, knew this whole time because of her clan's treaty with a band of pirates. It doesn't go over very well.
Your promise means nothing.
Maggie!
So next mission we get to rescue her family. It's basically a point defense mission. Make sure none of the Heg Demolitions people reach the farmhouse. Drones help you keep an eye out. They sneak in all kinds of places from the north, the roads, the fields, even sneaking in from the northwest where you wouldn't really expect. As long as you stay alert, you should be fine. Operation Bloodline. Certainly to the point with that one. Even the game says it's not much of a tactical victory, but it is a personal one. Figures that we'd have at least one mission like that in a plot like this. even though everyone kinda already personally has it out for both the pirates and hegemony. Next mission, Operation Fusebox, is to flash a very long-range hegemony communications tower. You need an electronics and demolitions expert here. Hack the control station and plant charges on it. While the tower is outputting all clears, you can clear groups of enemies one at a time without them calling in all their friends. You might want to do a bit of this, as once you put charges down and blow the tower and control station...
the hogs are gonna come running like it's slot time.
Yeah, that. Nothing complex, just try to make sure not to get your demolitions person or people in over their heads. As the game's ending, things have to get intense, unfortunately for Councilwoman Walker. The Hogs capture Carpaccio Station to refit their transports into limited warships, killing everyone inside. But we'll take care of that at the end of the game. They had also captured McDonald's Station. What, I'm not going to read every single story bit of this review, will be 2 hours long. So you airdrop into demo the gun emplacements. Have your squad plant demo charges on all the towers and keep everyone covered, then blow the place sky high as you leave. You know, I've noticed you airdrop in on literally every mission, except the prison break mission, but even then everyone else airdrops in at the beginning, so whatever. Fun fact, the game was originally called Freefall for that very reason. It was also supposed to be a lot more realistic, too. Not quite sure how you make power armor realistic, but all the more power to you, I guess. They actually had a really realistic bipedal movement system that worked most of the time. But every 30 minutes or so, someone would step slightly wrong and across the map they would go. So then they just used inverse kinematics instead, and basically did the coding equivalent of sticking the characters inside of hamster balls. No, really, that's how they describe the process. It's pretty great. You do get a rather fun weapon starting with this mission. You hear about its development earlier, the magnetic ballistic cannon. Yeah, I know, that's definitely technobabble. You can only mount it on the heavy suit, but it's basically like a monstrous missile launcher. It does only have 5 shots and quite the long reload time though, so, you know, keep that in mind. Operation Calais. That's a city in France. I guess because this is a very major station and Calais is a very major port? Not sure. Now, Operation Pigpen, very fitting name. You go down to Sarah to destroy the Hog cloning domes. Supposedly you can go a demolitions route or an electronics route, but all the buildings you need to destroy can be destroyed with normal weapons. So charge in there and destroy the domes as fast as you can. They'll keep spawning clones while they're still standing. You could try and use the Explodo drones. Yes, that's an incredibly stupid name, but I think they're useless. So after we move beyond the cloning domes... Ha ha ha! I can make the Beyond Thunderdome references too! Ugh! Ha. The hegemony are running off at this point, trying to salvage their shit and ship it to Thatcher. Either destroy the trucks or move directly to the bridge and take it out. Since your complete objective is to eliminate all foes anyways, you may as well just go down to the bridge, clear out the enemies, and hit it with an MB round. Then the trucks aren't exactly going anywhere, and you can sweep them up once they get there. Operation Hyperbole. Use of exaggeration as a rhetorical device or figure of speech. What, the hegemony aren't as big a deal as they were made out to be? I don't get it. Alright, into the final stretch. Operation Ice Pick. To take back Carpaccio Station, first we need to recover a hegemony scout ship that the bartender, Sonny McAllister, hid away on Thatcher. Who names their kid Sonny? The access codes are needed to bypass the anti-air defenses of the station. Also, somehow Nicola's brother is the only one who can fly it. He's a demolitions expert, meaning he can't carry the personal shield. Ugh. So try to avoid combat if possible. You also need an electronics person to repair the ship. If you sneak around well enough in the standard suit, this shouldn't be an issue. Operation Absolute Zero, fitting name for the final mission. The hegemony attack force, or at least what's left of it, is all retreating into Carpaccio Station, so you're going to blow them back to Earth with a nice big helping of dentonium. Bring along your firepower and cover Brant, at least long enough to plant the module on the fuel tank, and then get back to the dropship. Watch the extremely cheesy outro, and enjoy your victory.
All aboard. Hang on back there. Things are gonna get wild. Oh, that was close. You got the ball, Vulture? So do it already. Done.
There is a variety of medals to go after, though I'm not exactly sure what the criteria are with all of them. Some of them are obvious, like finish with low health, keep your squad safe, etc. I'm still not sure how you get the Stockton Cluster or the Devon Medal of Valor. No, not that Devon! It's also possible to end up with unscripted deaths, though anyone in cutscenes is protected by invincible plot armor, because FMV. So, Terra Nova, Strike Force Centauri. You know what? I'm glad I was roped into doing a DOS game. Yeah, it probably would have been a lot better for Looking Glass without all the expensive FMV, and could have pioneered some really sweet multiplayer. As it is, it's got a variety of characters, missions, and lasts long enough to be fun without overstaying its welcome. In fact, it kinda almost feels a bit short. It's good, and if the AI was polished a bit more, it could have been excellent, and for the time it pulled off some really nice graphical effects. And aside from a bit of off-kilter sound balance, it sounds pretty good too. It was planned to be a series, but unfortunately it didn't turn out that way, which is a real shame. The world could have used more of the good old SFC. This is Tanara Kuranov signing out, and damn it, I need a better call sign. Haha! I can make the Beyond Thunderdome references too! Oh! Your mother.